Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Have you ever been chilling in bed, relaxing, probably sleeping, or like just falling asleep or just waking up, and experienced the sensation of your bed shaking or vibrating? Seems like a pretty common thing. And the only time I've ever experienced it, I was laying in bed in the house that I lived in before Alex and I started living together, and I'm laying there and I start hearing this sound, which I had this other vanity at the time and it was really rickety, and so like you'd walk by and it would make noise, and like you could hear my jewelry hitting the mirror as I was laying in bed, and then I opened my eyes and I realized I'm kind of shaking back and forth, and then I realized that we had an earthquake in Indiana that I could actually feel, which did not seem probable at the time, but since everything in the room was shaking, it was a little bit different. But a lot of people experience this phenomenon of just their bed shaking. So I kind of wanted to explore this a little bit further and go into some different reasons as to why, possible theories, some of them paranormal, some of them not so much, and also some different ways that maybe you could stop it. So one of the biggest theories regarding this would be poltergeist activity, and most people associate poltergeist activity with something supernatural like an apparition. But a lot of people also believe that poltergeist activity can be self-created by people, especially focused on people who are like preteen and teen age, and a lot of times it's more female than male. So with that, just a lot of the experiences that you go through naturally during that period of time are said to aid in some of the paranormal activity, and that could be normal things like stress and anxiety and things that you go through in your daily life, but also because of your age, blossoming into adulthood, you have a lot of hormones and things that are at work as well, changing things within you. There's a theory that that can manifest outwardly in the form of objects moving. So that could be one. Some people believe that if you are doing different types of work spiritually, whether that could be like practicing with astral travel and lucid dreaming, meditation states, mediumship and psychic development work, and spirit communication, that doing those activities opens up a different aspect of yourself. It's believed that sometimes that openness to different things in the learning process, if it's approached in a way that maybe you didn't prepare for completely, or you didn't defend yourself enough, you didn't learn enough about it in general, that you may open yourself up to lower level energies that might be able to subtly influence the environment around you, hence a vibrating bed. Animal energies, like the spirit of an animal that previously would get onto your bed and shake it, or I know my dog, who's currently laying on the bed over here sleeping, sometimes he will breathe really heavily and it will kind of like rock our bed because he's a big dog. So something like that, like an actual living activity being recreated from a spiritual perspective. It could also be an indication that you're becoming more spiritually enlightened. So maybe you're doing all of those different development type of things to kind of open yourself up, and now you're at a level where your energy is naturally at a higher vibration, and it actually literally would vibrate out in that surface to where you would be able to sense it, and anybody else who happened to be in bed with you would too. Some people also think that this indicates an out-of-body experience that could be self-induced from meditation, lucid dreaming, but out-of-body experiences happen to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Most common, probably that you've heard of them, would be near-death experiences, but there's a lot of people who believe that out-of-body experiences could be caused by demons or aliens. So that's out there too. And then probably one of the most common things that people assume whenever they experience this and think it is something paranormal is that it's some form of spirit contact. Something is trying to get their attention and communicate something to them. And if that's the case, a lot of times if people just open their mouth and say like, hey, so-and-so, knock it off, it usually will have a pretty strong effect. It'll be pretty successful. Now we're going to move on to some of the more logical explanations. First one, which if you're experiencing this at home, you obviously wouldn't have that problem, but there are beds in like creepy hotel rooms and stuff that vibrate. I've never experienced one, I've only really seen them in movies, but I kind of want to see that happen. There's also a type of hallucination, written out here, where on the cusp of sleep, either at the beginning or the end, you end up in this transitory state. and you can have very vivid hallucinations that feel very real that are a hallucination. It's something that's like a trick of the brain. Sometimes in this state, a lot of people will also experience sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming too. So it's a very similar kind of state of mind to that. The influence of drugs or anything that could shift you out of your normal mental state could obviously have some kind of effect in how you perceive the bed and the room that you're in. On the other side of the animal spirits, if you have a living animal in your home, that could always be an option too if they're getting onto your bed, or I know since my dog's big, climbing under the bed, sometimes you can feel that too. Environmentally, there are a lot of things that could be at play. If you live near train tracks, a train could be going by. If you have a street near your house, a large vehicle could be driving by and you could be feeling it. There could also be pipes underneath your room or your bed area that could be carrying water that could be emitting a type of vibration. Or maybe you have like a washing machine running in the other room, or a fan that you sleep with on that's sitting against the bed, or any other type of object you might keep in a bedroom that could emit that kind of sensation. Like if you dropped your phone in your sleep and it was on vibrate and it went off. That could cause a weird bed shaking sensation. If you're not fully awake, you may not be able to recognize it. Plus, you might also have hypersensitivity to that type of environment. If your nervous system is hypersensitive, you might feel and sense electronic pulses and different vibrations and frequencies a little differently than other people, so it may give you the sensation of vibrating when it's not. A good example of that would actually be my Fitbit. I got it for my birthday and you can sleep with it on, so I wanted to go to sleep on my birthday, wear it to bed, and then start my day out with that. When I put it on and was trying to lay in bed, I got a tingling sensation in my hand. And it was very weird, very minor, but it slowly crept down this arm, across my chest, down the other arm, and then it completely stopped. And I've never felt it since. And I looked online the next day because it kind of creeped me out, and a lot of people had reported this happening, but it must not have been a high enough degree of people to where they had to write any kind of disclaimer. So according to the company, that should not be something that anybody experiences, but according to a lot of people who've tried it, they did. So that could also be my own form of hypersensitivity to different things. Restless leg syndrome. It's a very real thing. It causes like an uncontrollable flinching of the legs because when they're at rest, you get a weird sensation of like creepy crawly, itchy, tingly things on your legs, and so you're constantly kind of like twitching and it will keep you awake at night. So that could easily be something that was making your bed shake that you don't consciously think about as a reason because it's something kind of involuntary. Severe weather, like with my experience, the earthquake, which still again was really weird to experience in central Indiana. It's the only one I've ever experienced. But you could also be near some type of like big storm cell, a tornado, a hurricane. A lot of different things that happen environmentally could cause shaking of your bed. If your bed itself has slightly uneven feet or legs on it, if you're laying in a like balanced position in the bed, you might teeter it just enough to where it kind of bounces back and forth and you don't really realize that it's your weight kind of contributing to that. And lastly, it could be some type of sleep disorder, but most sleep disorders tend to be influenced by your anxiety level. So anxiety might also be linked to all of this. Now maybe you experience this in your own home and you're 100% certain that it's paranormal, or you're for sure that it's something weird that you just don't understand yet, or maybe you're kind of in the middle. But I want to go over some ways that kind of on both sides could help you potentially end the phenomenon and at least understand for sure if it's more logical or more paranormal. So some ways to stop it. If it's something that you're experiencing, like a lucid state, a hallucinogenic end of sleep cycle state, you may be able to influence you at that moment to be able to shift yourself out of it. Now I know for myself, I've experienced sleep paralysis before. It's something that I do not enjoy and I've done many times, and no matter how hard I try, to do these things. I have difficulty doing them, but some people do have success with them. So if it is some type of mental state, you could focus on your breathing and actively try to slow your breathing rate and change it just a bit, or like hold your breath for longer and then start breathing just to change the pattern, because then you're putting yourself in control at that moment. Another trick is in the dream or room that you're in, to test if you're really out of this dream. You can see if you can influence anything around you. Like a common thing with sleep paralysis is if you think you're in a sleep paralysis state, some people say to put your hand on a wall. And if you are asleep, it should pass through the wall, and then you realize in that moment, I can control this dream, and then you're able to step out of it and it becomes a fully lucid experience where you can control your dream until you wake up. To help with anxiety, you could always just develop like a nighttime ritual. I believe I covered this a little bit in my How I Got Over My Fear of the Dark video. Make a routine that involves like some calming tea before bed, or listening to some type of music or hypnosis or meditation, and you give yourself like a bedtime routine that's very calming and peaceful to you. Then it will hopefully carry on into your sleep. It'll be a very peaceful experience, and then when you wake up, you'll feel fine and normal, and it wouldn't have been something that your anxiety would have broken through. As I'd mentioned with spirit contact, if you feel like it is some type of spirit or energy trying to get a hold of you, talk to it. And if you've ever messaged me about having something trying to communicate with you, I'd say a solid like 85% of the time my response is talk to it out loud. You don't need anything, you just need to talk. Because I feel like if something was really trying to get your attention and it was shaking your bed and you woke up and you said, hey, this isn't cool, you need to back off, it would respect that. So you need to understand that the courtesy of please and thank you and telling something to stop when it's yours still should hold true in this situation as well. And then also with the spirit contact, I have a video on ways to cleanse your house. If you feel like it's something going on in your room, in your space, in your home, you could do some of those techniques and help at least shift the energy so that it feels more like your place and not like something else is up in there. And energetically, it will move along anything that's funky. I hope this video helped you explore the phenomenon of shaking, vibrating beds, and I would love to hear your experience with this if you have experienced it yourself. A super huge thank you to Patty, who sent me a suggestion to do this topic on my YouTube messages. Thank you so much, Patty. If you guys ever have suggestions for my videos, if it's something like this, where I immediately read it and was like, why haven't I done a video on this yet before? Please do leave me messages and comments pretty much anywhere on the internet. I will see it. And then that way, if it's a really good one that I feel passionate about, like this one, I will make it into a video as soon as possible. If not, I will add it to my mental list and try and start marking stuff off as I go, because there's a ton of topics I still want to cover. A huge thank you to Jason RIDDLE and all of my other Patreon peeps for helping me to make this video possible. Thank you guys, you're amazing. And all of my other Patreon peeps are listed in the description, so be sure to check them out. Thank you to each and every one of you for what you do to help me make these videos happen. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can always do one of these, that's fine too. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet and turn on notifications that way you get notified every time I upload. I'm Kat, and this is Paranormal Kativity. Have a strange day. Bye!